Welcome to the 175, a channel dedicated to debate, free thinking, and common sense. Speaking of common sense, today's topic is about drag queens doing story time at public libraries. I'm not 100% sure I understand the point of this. All I can conclude is that libraries, which are more or less ran by leftist people, have some sort of agenda that coincides with transgenderism and all of the LGBTQ and the left media as well. That agenda is to make sure that any kind of deviancy, any kind of oddness, any kind of, unnormal compared to what it was even 10 years ago, is accepted. Not just accepted, but welcomed. Right now, I do think that freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom to have a job and still speak your mind is all under threat, mainly because of this emphasis on tearing down every moray or moral of civilization. There's no question that the standard marriage is under attack, standard family is under attack, and there is no question that common sense is out the door when you have little 5-year-olds trying to emulate what a drag queen is saying and doing and acting. Even last week, there was a drag queen situation where that particular person showed his crotch to the lovely group of little kids, and for some reason the parents just thought that was hilarious. And granted, some of them are comical, but for the most part they have an agenda, and they're pushing that agenda on our children. Even school districts, who have long been a darling of the left, and the NEA in particular, being awful, really are pushing this whole idea of transgenderism very early. The fact that you can have fluid or fluidity in your gender is just silliness. In fact, it's actually, in my opinion, to some degree, a little bit of child abuse. That is, that you are trying to confuse the poor little kid from making a decision on what gender he is. Are you kidding me? Quit being neutral about it and go with the biological facts. If that person wants to, play house in a different team, as it were, later on in life, like when they're 35, well, then that's up to them, I guess. But even that I'm not really too crazy about. And the fact that the government is paying for transgender surgery changes, with prisoners and things like that is just outrageous. I have no idea what happened to common sense. It is so outrageous. But I really would love to know from a parent that takes their kid to these drag queen story times at the library, what they're thinking. Why are they doing that? Is it the whole idea of the all-important God of tolerance, which of course is silly? All tolerance means is it's evil and sin. When you think of sin, you think of whatever God believes is to be righteous or holy, and go directly opposite of that, and then it seems like everybody wants to just excuse their own version of how to live. As Francis Schaeffer once asked, how then shall we live? Well, hopefully like a Christian would. And a Christian, as a general rule, loves people, but doesn't just throw away their standards because of some sort of love for someone. That makes no sense whatsoever. Anyway, it started historically way back in the 60s when all these free thinkers came along and did their LSD, and it was free love, free sex, and marriage was a waste of time. And of course, the world didn't exactly help it any by being more and more divorce-oriented, constantly, repetitively in divorce. And people, kids in particular, did not want anything to do with it, assuming that the people were totally unhappy in marriage all the time. So it gave a bad taste about marriage, and so they started just, quote, living together, shacking up, whatever the case might be. Then feminism hit in the early 70s. The liberal left in the House of Representatives and the Supreme Court at the time made all sorts of case law that was just awful. And now we have more or less a reaction. In the 80s, there was narcissism. Everything was about materialism. Let's get as much as we can, thinking that would make us happy. And then, of course, the gay issue hit in the 90s, and the media decided that we want society, from their perspective, want the people to accept and, in fact, endorse gay living. And so they put every kind of character in every kind of movie, in every kind of TV show, and now it's just constantly. I believe GLAAD made a statement the other day that they want 20% of all leading actors to be gay characters. by 2025. Well, the bottom line is there's an agenda there. The left media is all for it. TV, movies, all of it. And the whole idea that libraries are so dumb anyway, and the fact that they allow pornography on their computers and they don't care whether or not little kids see it, it's so wrong. It's wrong in every degree. All of this is wrong, and anytime you go against what God has clearly shown in His Word, then bad things tend to happen. And I believe that our society is literally crumbling from the inside out, which, by the way, I might add, Karl Marx, back in 1915, predicted that the West would crumble from the inside without the East firing a shot. And that's exactly what is happening today. Well, that's all I got time for on the 175. Subscribe if you'd like. Certainly love the debate, the dialogue, the comments, and we'll get back to other controversial issues as we go along here on the 175.